What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another all-new installment of Renegades Reviews, right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I am the Renegade J.j. Williams, and today we're going to be talking about a very controversial film from 1946. Yes, we are going to address Song of the South here on Black History Month, starring James Baskett as Uncle Remus, Bobby Driscoll, the future Peter Pan, Ruth Warrick, Lucille Watson, Hattie McDaniel, who had previously won an Oscar for her role in Gone with the Wind, and then featuring the voices of Johnny Lee as Brer Rabbit, James Baskett as Brer Fox, and Nick Stewart as Brer Bear. Welcome, everybody, to what is probably going to be my most controversial show to date, possibly ever, as I attempt to tackle the Song of the South. Now, there's a lot of, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding this film since its inception, and we're going to get into some of that a little bit more after I talk about the movie and give the synopsis and everything, because I want to try to address this film with the delicate gloves that it deserves so I can still be respectful of everything. The film is set on a plantation, some distance from Atlanta. It doesn't really tell us, how far away from Atlanta, Georgia they are, but Atlanta is the next major city. And it's during the Reconstruction era of our nation's history, which is after slavery was abolished. Slaves were free. So they were more sharecroppers at this point who were working on the land to own their own shares of the land, their own property. Joel Chandler Harris, who is the author of the Uncle Remus stories for which the film is based, was himself born in 1848 and was a racial reconciliation activist, writer, and journalist. Now then, let's get into the meat of the story here. Johnny is a 7-year-old boy who's excited about what appears to be a vacation to his grandmother's plantation with his parents, John Sr. and Sally. Upon arrival, though, he discovers that his father isn't going to stay. He's got to go back home to Georgia, to Atlanta. And his parents are going to be living separately for a time being. Now, it's not really addressed if they're considering divorce or if they're just going through a separation, or even if this is just, hey, you take the kid to the grandparents' house, I've got some work to do. But there's definitely a little bit of possibility of separation leading to divorce if you look at the body language between John and Sally. Heartbroken, of course, Johnny attempts to run away his first night on the plantation with only a bindle. And as Johnny begins his journey, he hears some of the plantation residents singing songs about Uncle Remus and just perpetuating the story that he has told them and spreading them to new generations amongst the other plantation workers. Well, a little further down the road, he discovers an older man telling a group of children a tale about Brer Rabbit. And this ends up being Uncle Remus himself, our first introduction to the character. And by this point now, he's gone missing. So Aunt Tempe and another resident head out to try to find Johnny. Sally is worried. Where's my son? I need to find him. Johnny is able to avoid being caught by them. But when they question Uncle Remus, he tells them, don't worry. Tell Sally that he's with me. The boy's with me. Because Uncle Remus is held in such a high regard amongst the people on the plantation that he's with Uncle Remus, good as gold. He's taken care of. Uncle Remus then catches up with Johnny, and the two begin to become friends. Johnny tells Uncle Remus that he's going to run away, that he's going to Atlanta. And Uncle Remus is like, well, that's a far journey. Have you got any food? And of course, Johnny has no food. He didn't think about that. He's only 7. He's probably just got a couple changes of clothes in his little bindle. So Uncle Remus, being a free slave and having the ability to go wherever he wants without being stopped and harassed by the law at the time, he tells Johnny, okay, well, let's go to my house real quick. We'll grab some food and I'll join you on your journey because there's nothing for me around here, really. So they go back to the cabin, and while at the cabin, Uncle Remus tells Johnny his first story of Brer Rabbit, which is called Brer Rabbit Earns $1 a Minute. Now, in the story, Brer Rabbit attempts to leave his home at the briar patch, but he gets trapped in Brer Fox's trap. Now, Brer Rabbit, being a quick thinker, at first, like anybody who got caught in a trap, he's fidgeting and shaking around trying to get loose. But then he sees Brer Bear coming. And Brer Rabbit, being smarter, figures out a way to trick Brer Bear. And he tells Brer Bear that he is getting paid $1 a minute to be hanging in that trap. Brer Bear's like, hey, I want to make $1 a minute. I think we'd all like to make $1 a minute. Hell, minimum wage is only $15 an hour. We'd be making $60 an hour if we were getting paid $1 a minute. So, who wouldn't want to get paid $1 a minute? So Brer Rabbit and Brer Bear switch places, and now Brer Bear is caught in the trap, dangling there. When Brer Fox comes to slaughter Brer Rabbit to make him dinner, you realize that, pun intended, he's been outfoxed. Brer Rabbit rethinks his decision. He decides to go back home to the briar patch because that's where he's safe. That's where he's comfortable. Heeding the moral of the story, Johnny returns home, back to his grandmother's plantation. His mom and his grandmother are waiting up for him, Uncle Remus in tow, taking him back, just like he had told, the plantation workers, little Johnny's with me. I got him. Now, while he's on this little vacation at his grandmother's, Johnny befriends some of the children that also live on the plantation. In particular, he befriends a boy named Toby and a girl named Jenny. And Jenny is the little sister of Joe and Jake. And Jenny decides that she's going to give Johnny a puppy because her older brothers want to drown him because he's the run of the litter. Well, Sally refuses to let Johnny keep the puppy and tells him to take the puppy back where he got it. Well, Johnny doesn't want to see the puppy get drowned, so he decides to take the puppy to Uncle Remus's house, where Uncle Remus allows him to leave the puppy. That way he can still keep it. He doesn't get in trouble with his mom, and the dog doesn't get killed. However, Uncle Remus is unaware of what Miss Sally had told him, to take the dog back home where he had got it. While Johnny is at Uncle Remus's cabin again, Uncle Remus tells him another tale of Brer Rabbit. This one is called Brer Rabbit and the Tar Baby. And once again, Brer Rabbit gets trapped and caught up by Brer Fox. See, Brer Fox is smart enough to catch him. He's just not quick enough to get him in time so that he can do what he wants with him. That's one of the big problems in all these stories, is that Brer Fox is crafty enough to get him. He just can't execute what he wants to do with them. In this story, Brer Rabbit is just kind of frolicking along, saying howdy to everybody that he passes, and everybody returns the howdy back. Well, he sees the tar baby sitting on a log, and he doesn't realize what it is. So when he says howdy and there's no reply, he thinks he's being rude. So Brer Rabbit threatens to knock him one. And when he does, his fist gets stuck in the tar. And Brer Rabbit ends up getting all consumed and wrapped up in the tar as a result. Well, here come Brer Fox and Brer Bear. And of course, Brer Rabbit is able to escape by using reverse psychology. Once again, Johnny heeds the moral of the story. And when Joe and Jake confront him again, try to get their dog back, no, Johnny tells them, you know what? Go. Tell my mom, tell Uncle Remus, tell whoever you want to tell, but whatever you do, don't tell your mother. Because Jenny had already warned and told Johnny that if her mom found out, they'd get a whooping. So, what did Joe and Jake do after getting tricked? They go home and they tell their mom. What ends up happening? Well, they catch a whooping. So out of revenge, Joe and Jake go to Sally. And they tell her, hey, Johnny has our puppy. Well, Uncle Remus at this point now finds out what Johnny had done. So they begrudgingly give the puppy back, and Sally tells Uncle Remus to stop telling Johnny any more stories. It's now Johnny's birthday, and Johnny goes to pick Jenny up for his birthday party. As they're walking to the party, Joe and Jake confront them, start harassing them, and they even push Jenny, their own little sister, into a mud puddle, ruining the new nice dress that she was wearing for the party. Jenny runs off crying, and at this point, Johnny is just fed up. So he tackles one of the brothers. I'm not sure which one he tackles. It's kind of irrelevant. Tackles one of the brothers, and they just start fighting, rolling around on the dirt, throwing punches, the whole nine. Well, the other brother goes to get a stick so that they can take the upper hand. And right at this point, Uncle Remus comes by, and he snatches the stick out of the hand. And he tells them, he scolds them for fighting, breaks the fight up, and Johnny runs off to find Jenny. Uncle Remus then finds the two of them hanging out by a lake. And Johnny, to his credit, he's trying to cheer Jenny up by telling her a Brer Rabbit tale, but he just fails miserably. She starts crying even worse. So Uncle Remus tells them a tale of Brer Rabbit and the Laughing Place. And it's basically a story about a place that brings you happiness and makes you laugh. Once again, Brer Rabbit is tied up by Brer Fox and Brer Bear, and he's being led to be dinner, essentially. And Brer Rabbit starts randomly laughing, and they want to know why. And he tells them, well, I was just at my laughing place. So Brer Bear wants to know where the laughing place is. And they keep walking for a little bit, and they end up encountering a beehive, if I remember correctly. And Brer Bear gets his head stuck in the beehive. Brer Rabbit starts laughing. He says that this is his laughing place. Well, Brer Bear doesn't find it funny. Well, this is my laughing place. I didn't say it was your laughing place. Because, again, everybody has something different that makes them happy, makes them laugh. When Sally ends up finding the trio of Remus, Johnny, and Jenny, she is beyond upset. I mean, Johnny just missed his entire birthday party. All the guests have gone. He just totally left them high and dry. At this point, I definitely understand where Sally's coming from, because that's just a show of disrespect. I understand that kids lose track of time sometimes. But I mean, you've got all these people there at your house to essentially celebrate you, and you just basically no-show. She tells Uncle Remus not to spend any more time with Johnny, period. Forget that he even exists, basically. So as a result, Uncle Remus decides to leave the plantation and go to Atlanta. Sad and hurt that his good intentions were misunderstood. Johnny's heartbroken by this. First his dad leaves in the beginning of the movie. Now Uncle Remus is leaving. All of the strong male figures in this boy's life are leaving him. He tries to catch Uncle Remus by taking a shortcut through a pasture where a bull is grazing. The bull sees Johnny, chases after him, and attacks him, seriously injuring Johnny. As Johnny's teetering kind of between life and death, and is he okay, and is he going to die, Johnny keeps saying Uncle Remus's name. And Johnny's grandmother knows exactly what needs to happen. She goes downstairs where all the plantation residents are kind of gathered to see what happens with Johnny. And of course, Uncle Remus is there. And she escorts him up to the room. And Uncle Remus begins retelling the tale of Brer Rabbit and the laughing place to him. Johnny comes to and survives the serious attack. And sometime later, we see Johnny, Jenny, and Toby skipping and frolicking, singing and playing together as the puppy runs alongside of him, the puppy that Johnny tried to care for. They end up encountering Brer Rabbit himself. And Uncle Remus is just blown. In his mind, these characters are fictitious. But here's Brer Rabbit interacting with these children now. Uncle Remus runs off to join them, and they all skip off into the sunset and live happily ever after. So that's basically the story of Song of the South, the film. To join me here today on Renegades Reviews is a man who needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. I'm not going to give him as illustrious a one as we do when we are together on the Dads, not always on wrestling, but ladies and gentlemen, Jeff MRF and Meacham himself. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for inviting me on. I know you and I have talked about this movie a lot over the years, and thanks to you, I did get a copy of it, digital, of course, within the last couple of years, and got to watch it. It was there's a lot to unpack. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
So
very much so.
But it's one of those things where we've all heard about it as, you know, kids, because the majority of us that are on your shows or my shows or watch one or the other were born long after it became a thing in and of itself. The fact that the movie became what it has become, as far as a controversial subject, almost a taboo subject to talk about when you're in these halls, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to dissecting it thoroughly.
Yeah. The film Song of the South has almost become the same type of naughty word as Chris Benoit.
Right. Yes, very much so. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Now, let me just go over, since you're here, we're going to go over some of the controversies here.
Right.
And we'll try to break down and talk about these a little bit.
Yep.
Like I said in the beginning, the film's been controversial since its release in 1946. Now, just for a little bit of clarity, my dad was born a year later.
Right.
So my dad wasn't even born when this movie came into existence, okay?
Right.
And some people cite the depiction of the African-American characters as racist, saying that the vernacular is stereotypical.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Uncle Remus isn't exactly an educated man, and he speaks uneducated.
Right.
They say that the plantation setting is glorified.
Yes, very, very much romanticized.
And the NAACP itself even set out telegraphs to newspapers stating, quote, "The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People recognizes in Song of the South remarkable artistic merit in the music and in the combination of living actors and the cartoon technique. It regrets, however, that in an effort neither to offend audiences in the North or the South, the production helps to perpetuate a dangerously glorified picture of slavery, making use of the beautiful Uncle Remus folklore. Song of the South unfortunately gives the impression of an idyllic master-slave relationship, which distortion of the facts." Now, before you speak on this, I want to just kind of counterpoint that, because a week ago today, I talked about Roots. And Roots had the characters of Dr. William Reynolds, portrayed by Robert Reed, no less.
Yeah.
And Sam Harvey, portrayed by Richard McKenzie.
Right.
Both of these men basically portrayed an idyllic master-slave relationship.
Yes.
Yet that one isn't criticized in the way that Song of the South is.
Exactly.
So, counterpoint number one, why is the idyllic master-slave relationship portrayed in Roots okay, but it's not okay in Song of the South some 30 years later? Higher, I should say.
Right. I mean, this whole movie really is that. That's really what this movie comes down to. If this isn't okay, why are the Crows and Dumbo okay? As long as there is a reference before the movie starts. If this isn't okay, why is the Aristocats okay? As long as there's a reference at the beginning of the movie saying, hey, we were screwed up back then, our bad. Which Disney Plus has, by the way. It has it on Aladdin, one of my favorites ever. So
it's interesting that you would single out Dumbo and the Aristocats, because now Disney Plus has it where if you're under like 8 or 9 years old, you cannot access those movies
on your kid account, right? You can't do that. Yeah, I know. So again, it goes back to, if you can do it with them, why can't you do it with Song of the South? Is Disney Plus so afraid of any parent, be they white, black, brown, purple with pink polka dots? They can't have proper parental authority to go, yeah, you can't watch that.
See, and Herman Hill, who was a member of the Black Press at the Pittsburgh Courier, said that he felt Song of the South would, quote, prove of inestimable goodwill in furthering the interracial relations.
Yeah, exactly. I happen to see in the course of my reading that as recently as the 90s or late 80s, Whoopi Goldberg was all about putting this out again.
Because she wants to create a dialogue about it.
And I dare say there's no more outspoken, polarizing black actress than Whoopi Goldberg. Yeah. People either love Whoopi or they don't. It's just, and for her to be like, all right, look, like we get it, but like you said, create dialogue. See, that's the whole thing. People, and it's not just in this new, the technology age. It's been like this for almost 80 years now with this movie. They're afraid. 75 years this year is the release of the anniversary, is the release of the movie. They're scared to talk about it. It's like, oh, it's over there, but it's not there. Why? I was able to watch it the first time with your help, and I watched it, and I enjoyed it for a movie, for what it was. I watched it back this time. I did the analysis. I took the notes. I get it. I can get why PC people are so up in arms. But that's the thing. They're the PC people. They're supposed to be up in arms about everything. If they're not up in arms, they've got nothing to do. But me as a moviegoer, me as a parent, me as a lifelong Disney lover, would love the opportunity to have a dialogue with this amongst a group of people. Not just kids, not adults, not just black people, not just white people, but just, okay, the story itself is silly, okay? A lot of what happens to Brer Rabbit is incorporated into what was Splash Mountain before they started gutting that thing out too.
Yeah.
Which also chaps my ass to no end. They released that ride, 43 years after the fact, and all of a sudden now it's bad. Come on, guys.
We were going to get to that in a minute, but I'm glad you brought that up because it pins back to the controversy, and if this movie is so controversial,
yep,
why was it re-released in 1956 for the film's 10th anniversary?
Yep.
Why was it released in 1972 for Walt Disney Studios' 50th anniversary? Why was it released in 1973 as the second half of a double bill with the Aristocats? Why was it released?
Oh, they released both of them?
Yeah, as a double bill.
Ooh, not a good look, Granddad. Not a good look.
Why did they release it in 1980 for the 100th anniversary of the original Uncle Remus stories? And why was it re-released in 1986 for the 40th anniversary of the film and to begin promotion of Splash Mountain? Again, these are all theatrical releases.
Yeah.
We're not just talking about, a one-off at the El Capitan or something.
Right, exactly.
We're talking about full-on theatrical releases. People could buy a ticket worldwide to go see this film again, but it's so controversial. It has even been aired on the BBC television as recently as 2006, and on the Disney Channel in the 80s and the 90s. So again, we're getting to Splash Mountain. If it's so controversial, why was there an attraction based on it in the first place?
Yeah. It blows my mind that, you can only be as PC as, your biggest, most controversial critics can be. It's like, again, people say what they want to say about Walt Disney, about his views on life and whatever, and the way he approached certain types of people, whatever. Like, seriously. But I don't understand. Again, you said the ride was opened here in California first, and it was 43 years after the fact.
Mhm.
If this movie is so taboo, and you don't want to talk about it, and you don't want to bring it up, I'm with you. I'm okay with it. I really am. But if you're going to do that, then you can't do anything else. You can't build a ride and profit from it. You can't, sell merchandise with Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, and Brer Bear on it and make a profit on it. You guys have to draw the line as a corporation. And I'm not saying that doing it now is necessarily the worst thing, but it's kind of like, yeah, you guys are doing this because you got your hands caught in the cookie jar and now you're screwed. And you shouldn't have had your hands caught in the cookie jar because, it's been a problem forever. So why is it only a problem now? And why are we gutting a ride that I love so much when it's a hot day? Take me in January, not so much. But if it's hotter than pee outside, yeah, I'm gonna want to ride on Splash Mountain and get myself cooled off. Here's the other thing I need to bring up, and I can't stress this enough because we talked about Splash Mountain, being active and being a thing. Why is that then that my son and I were able to go see? I can't. Do me a favor, add my screen real quick. I forgot I'm not on my windows looking at it. This is not that long ago. He's not that old here. Not that much younger here than he is now. Why then, if you're so against this movie and the attraction being there, why are you bringing him out for character fan days, long lost friend days? We shouldn't be long lost friends. We don't like these guys. It's a bad movie. It's a taboo subject for the company. Again, it's only taboo as long as there's less profit to be made than there is controversy to be had. Period.
Eric Bischoff himself says controversy creates cash.
Yeah. And
here's another interesting little tidbit. I don't know if you unearthed when you were doing your research. Nick Stewart, the voice of Brer Bear, recorded Brer Bear's dialogue for Splash Mountain.
Yep, he did.
If this is such a bad thing, why would an actor come back and revisit that role?
Yeah, and I find it very funny, and not funny, kind of like it's not even funny. It's kind of sad.
That might be the bad choice of words.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny that Bobby Driscoll, God love him, man. This little kid that gets caught up in this controversial windstorm, took a freaking hop, skip to the left and second star to the right, and got the hell out of that in a hurry. Like, he's P-Pan now. He will always be P-Pan. And good for him. And I read up on Bobby Driscoll. Not a fun story at all.
No, not at all.
Poor guy, just But and it's funny you mentioned Gone with the Wind. I thought I recognized that lady. I'm sitting there watching last night, going, I was doing the other side. Where have I seen this lady? It's like my mom's favorite movie of all time, like Gone with the Wind. It's like I knew, and of course it's a Southern plantation story. So there you go.
Again, and only recently has that movie started to receive backlash.
Yeah, it's so funny how I think the main problem, Jay, and again, this is probably going to get you a lot of controversy, and we're not used to that or anything.
I feel like we're discussing this in a very professional way, so I hope we won't get flamed too much for this topic.
Yeah, my thing is, why must everybody be so quick to police every single thing we do, we watch, things we say? Yeah, those should be more policed. I fully understand that, which is why I've had to curtail you actually giving me my proper introduction these days, because I can make the money with the F-bombs. It don't work that way. But there is no reason that we as a society should not be able to have a calm, professional, mature, rational dialogue about anything, whether it's Song of the South, whether it's any of these things. And it's so funny because we talked about when the WWE Network was launched, 7 years ago this year, which again blows my mind too. You know, we were promised every single pay-per-view, every single everything, and they're not all there. And the wrestling fans were up in arms about it. They didn't have a lot of the WCW European shows or the WWE various tours that were televised or whatever. And they got all. Nobody's really bitching about Song of the South not being a thing on Disney Plus. I don't understand it. Like, is it so taboo? Is it so bad that even the staunch Disney lovers will go, yeah, okay, we get that, but they can sit there and show their kids, Dumbo, Aristocats, anything, as long as there's a little, okay, just so you know, guys, we screwed up by making this movie. We shouldn't have done it, but we're going to go ahead and keep showing it to you and make profit off it anyway.
Again. And again, Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, and Brer Bear all have appeared on House of Mouse multiple times. That ran from 2001 to 2003. Brer Bear and the Tar Baby were in Who Framed Roger Rabbit in 1988. Mm-hmm. And all three of the Brer characters also appear in Connect Disneyland Adventures for Xbox 360, which was a 2011 video game.
Yep.
So they're still trying to profit off these characters. And to an extent, I understand, because the Uncle Remus tales are very much akin to Grimm's fairy tales.
Oh, absolutely.
They are the Southern African-American versions of Grimm's fairy tales.
Yep.
But, like you said, why can't we have a proper discussion about this? I've been saying for years, and even prior to Disney Plus, but now especially with Disney Plus being around,
right,
let's get together a little round table. Let's have someone distinguished like Leonard Maltin moderate it. Let's bring in respectable African-American actors and actresses. Whoopi Goldberg has been pulling this for a long time. Let's put her on the panel. Let's put someone like Morgan Freeman on the panel or Denzel Washington. Names that carry serious clout and weight, and have them sit there and discuss what is okay about this movie and what is not okay about this movie, so that people like ourselves, because let's be real, we are two white men, never been on a plantation, never lived during those times, so we don't understand what the times were, what they went through. We are only trying to speculate and discuss based off of what is presented in front of us. Yeah. So give us the reasons why this story is complete and utter bullshit. I try not to cuss on my shows, but let's call it like it is here. Tell us what it is about the movie. Make us understand, but at the same time, acknowledge what is good about this movie, whether it's the animation, the songs, the storytelling, the portrayal of the animal characters in the animated segments. All of those have been released in some varying form on Disney home media throughout the years. A lot of them through the old sing-alongs videos.
Oh, yes.
It's the live action part that people tend to have the most issues with.
Which I completely understand.
To an extent.
Yeah.
I don't fully understand it, even still. Because I see a story about a young boy put somewhere where at the end of the day he doesn't want to be. His father leaves him, and the only father figure that he has is this African-American former slave who carries a little bit of weight on the plantation because everyone seems to listen to his stories and respect him, who forms a bond with this young boy and teaches him things that his father can't teach him because his father bounced. That's what I see when I watch this film. And maybe I'm seeing it through incorrect glasses, but that's the story that I see.
Right.
And I don't see what's wrong with that story.
No, I don't either. But to what I said, in my notes here, if I can actually, be professional and have my notes out handy.
There you go.
What I said was, I put the wrong section. Just kidding. Ducks. There we go. I can definitely understand where a PC crowd will consider this a huge, overwhelmingly huge romanticization of Reconstruction. Because if you really break it down, Reconstruction was a hard time for this country. It was people were still unsure of how to act with one another in terms of class, in terms of a lot of different things. And the major thing is that we really didn't get past that. We kind of just let it lay there under the surface, and it really wasn't until the 50s and the 60s with Dr. King and Rosa Parks, things like that, that really people started to be forcibly made aware of, okay, this is a problem. And during this time, as you mentioned, they were no longer slaves, they were sharecroppers. But were they really sharing the crops? Were they? It's a fine line that they all walked, for a long time, and this country was really, not okay in doing that. And my whole thing is, there is a huge difference in the animal representations in this movie, as far as the anthropomorphic, characters, as opposed to the Aristocats, as opposed to the Crows and Dumbo. There's a huge disparity, whether people really see it or not. Remember, a lot of the cats that were presented in Aristocats were made to look like either buffoons or over stereotypical, much like the Crows. They were called, the guy's main guy was Jim Crow. Like, how are we not immediately in the studio going, oh, I don't know about that one, guys. But Song of the South isn't okay. When Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, and Brer Bear are they're great characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I still stand steadfast by my long-held belief that Disney Plus should at least consider putting this up and having that big disclaimer. Because if you don't know what Song of the South is as a young parent or as an even older parent, then you should be aware, hey, this is heavy shit. Watch it with your kids. By all means, educate yourselves.
Very much.
But get heavy.
Very much so. I mean, I remember going to a character breakfast at the Plaza Inn, and Brer Bear was one of the characters that wandered around that day.
Nice.
And I overheard a parent say, "Look, it's Bear in the Big Blue House." Because there is very little knowledge of who these characters truly are.
Right.
And I feel that's a shame because, like I said, these Uncle Remus stories are very much akin to Grimm's fairy tales.
Yes.
And every kid knows Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Jack and the Beanstalk, all these tales that we were told growing up. I had my daughter sit and watch this and take notes about it. And we had a conversation about it, much as me and you are having right now.
Nice, very cool.
What is okay about this, and what did you not think was okay about this? Because I feel like it's the type of thing that needs to happen, And another thing I've suggested, if Disney is not going to put this on Disney Plus or whatever, Why can't they just go ahead, knuckle up, and sell a DVD or Blu-ray of this? It wouldn't make sense now that Splash Mountain is getting gutted, but why couldn't they just put a DVD or Blu-ray release of this and sell it at the Splash Mountain gift shop? Only place you could buy it. You can't buy it at Target, Walmart, Best Buy, etc. You can't buy it on Amazon. You can only buy it at the Splash Mountain gift shop in the amusement parks, and all proceeds from the release could go to the United Negro College Fund, the
Right.
NAACP, George Floyd Foundation, whatever, to try to give back to the community that feels so wronged by its existence in the first place.
Exactly. I almost hesitate to say, different things because it's such a taboo subject. It's such a hotbed for controversy, and I know controversy is cash, and I know that's what we live off of here on this channel and on my channel and everything like that. But I at the end of the day, your show is a review show, and if I'm reviewing this movie as a movie, it's wonderful. I enjoy the story. I enjoy the interaction between the characters. I enjoy the mergers, the melting of animation and live characters, much akin to the later Mary Poppins, who of course revolutionized that in the first place. Let's not kid ourselves.
If you were rating this movie out of 5 stars, Jeff, what would you give it?
I would give it at least 4, if not 4.5. I think the story is that good.
Pick one.
4. I only don't say 5 because remember, I, as well as you, have the gift of hindsight. So you can look back and go, yeah, this was good, but in 1946 there was no yeah but, apparently, because they released the damn movie. So I only hesitate because there is so much that we can look back and go, yeah, it could have been different. But
agree.
Just
agree. I definitely concede that point with you, and I also am giving this film 4 out of 5 stars. A lot of the same reasons. At the end of the day, I, as a film reviewer, can only really critique the product in front of me.
Right.
I shouldn't be critiquing the backstory. I shouldn't be critiquing the controversy. I shouldn't be critiquing the real life events that were happening in our country around which this film was based.
Right.
So if I am talking about a cinematography, acting, music, animation, storytelling, and grading on those things, then you've got to give it high marks, 4 out of 5 at least.
Absolutely.
And when, if you want to dig into the controversy, yeah, maybe you could knock it down a couple pegs, but I don't feel that that's just to the film and the product that was put out to throw that on there. It would be like ranking WrestleMania 20 low because of Benoit's championship reign and victory because of what happened years later.
Right. Yep.
And that's not fair to the whole of the product.
No. And or to that match individually. I mean, it's easily Chris's finest hour. It really is. And if you take that away from the story of WrestleMania and the story of the character because of what the man did, it's not right. If you take away the brilliance and the good of Song of the South because of the bad, you're not being fair.
Exactly. And another film that I recently reviewed that had a very stereotypical portrayal that I don't hear calling for backlash near as much as I've heard about this one. I don't know if you've ever seen Breakfast at Tiffany's.
It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Mickey Rooney's Mr. Yuniyoshi when we get off of this, I recommend you YouTube Mr. Uniyoshi, Mickey Rooney, and watch that portrayal and tell me if that is not highly offensive as well.
That sounds like way too much of a white guy to be playing the guy with that last name.
Exactly. That's all that needs to be said.
I don't mean to joke, but
I said in my review that if I didn't know it was Mickey Rooney, I wouldn't have known it was Mickey Rooney.
Right.
Make sure you guys get out there, get those hashtags trending on social media. Hashtag Casa D18 Studios, hashtag Renegades Reviews, hashtag Renegade Returns, and of course, cheap plug for hashtag Jeff Meacham Network and the ever popular hashtag Shenanigans.
And see, that picture I showed of Dylan and I with the characters from this movie, that was just fun shenanigans that we got into because the Disney parks released those guys from their cages. Really, it's awesome.
Long lost friend weekends were some of my favorite times at the park because you would see those characters that did not come out on a daily basis.
No.
And it was, we met Hunchback of Notre Dame characters there.
Yep.
We met the Country Bears before they started becoming a little bit more frequent again.
All 7 dwarfs.
Yeah. All 7
come out since
dwarfs.
We were kids, you and I. So it's crazy.
Robin Hood Endgame.
That was cool for me. I know it was for you as well.
Scrooge McDuck and Professor Ludwig von Drake.
Yeah. And again, when you talk about Scrooge McDuck and Professor Von Drake, stereotypical Scottish accent, stereotypical German accent, shouldn't use those. Those are bad. No. Where do we draw the line? Freaking. Okay, well, I'm gonna go way into the weeds. Talk about Mulan and Pocahontas. That we're gonna get out into the friggin' hour or more here.
Yeah. Let's not go there.
Where do we draw? The bottom line of this movie, unfortunately, is where is the line drawn? Where does profit become less important than making a statement, sending a message? It's unfortunate that the corporation has chosen to do it this way, but we weren't running the show, 75 years ago. So
exactly. We interrupt this episode of Renegades Reviews for an important announcement about
merchandising. Merchandising? What's that? Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Merchandising, where the real money's made.
Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all the t-shirts you see here from the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham himself. You can get shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network, Talk Wrestling, as well as the red and gold Meachamania shirts. And while you're there, don't forget to get your shirts of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, the Dads on Wrestling shirt, the Renegade J.j. Williams, Statboy Sports Bar, and the hashtag StatBoyApproved shirt. Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network and score your shirts today. Make sure you get out there, do what the commercial just told you. Go to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network. Get yourself your Renegade J.j. Williams shirt, your Dad's Not Always on Wrestling shirt, the official shirt for Statboy Sports Bar, the hashtag StatBoyApproved shirt, Talk Wrestling, Wrestling Rewind, Meachamania, and of course the official shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network themselves, including the brand new Back to the Future inspired design. I can't wait to place my order for that one myself, Jeff.
Appreciate that.
And finally have me a shirt broadcasting and advertising the network.
Yeah, I made it a point to make sure I got myself one and my dad one. And of course I needed the rush job for the thing with Adam, so I made sure that I got one made. But yeah, I adore that logo so much, man. It came out so well. Bravo to Greg on that one. That was really well done.
Yes. Thank you for joining me, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you for riding along with me here for almost an hour
So I was going to say, thank you for taking your show twice the length. Yeah, sorry.
It's all good. When I have guests on the show, it usually tends to go closer to 45 minutes, an hour anyway. So,
good.
You know, I'm cool with it, and I'm sure the fans, all 5 of them that watch every episode of mine, will be glad to see you on here discussing this topic. Thank you for joining us. Comments, please let us know what you think about it in the comment box below. I've been getting a few more comments here recently on some of my episodes. Thank you to all those of you who have been doing that. How did we handle this controversial subject? I really want to know. So please let us know in the comment box if you feel like we did justice to this film and handled it in a respectable and proper way, because I knew going in to this particular movie that it was going to be a daunting task. Because either you completely nonchalantly glaze over it or you beat stuff to death. And I really tried to walk the middle ground there.
Right.
And I feel I did a good job.
Yep.
Jeff may feel that I did a good job, but what did you, the viewers, think? Please let me know. Again, comments in the comment box. I will reply to them as I always do. Well, is that the Jeff Meacham endorsement?
Yes. There's the logo. Go there. Do that. Buy the shirts. All that stuff.
So, thank you again for joining me. Until tomorrow here on Renegades Reviews, where I will be beginning my journey into blaxploitation films with none other than the classic Shaft.
Damn right.
I am the Renegade J.j. Williams. Thank you for joining me, Jeff. And I will see you guys next time.